Hello and welcome to our channel PMS Astrology. Today's topic is very important because we are going to discuss the chart of a person who is very famous and has become national sensation at this point in time. He's a, he was a big celebrity, big philanthropist. He, he was a big thinker. He was a big achiever. Overall, he was a very great person. And it's none other than Sushant Singh Rajpoot. And it's really hard to believe that he's no more with us. Let's try and understand what went wrong in his life and what planets resulted in his demise. First of all, we have in front of us his ascendant chart. If you see the ascendant chart, he's an Aries ascendant. And the person who is an Aries ascendant, they are full of energy. They have vibrant personalities. They have energy. They can achieve anything they want in life, provided the other planetary combination supports. So let's see where uh, the ascendant lord goes, what planets affect the first house, and everything. So first house, the lord goes into the seventh house. Rahu sits in the first house. First house is the house of personality, is our head. Ascendant is the most important house. So the ascendant lord moves into the seventh house, which makes him a Manglic person because Mars is sitting in the seventh house. So he becomes a Manglic person. Then the first house is affected completely by Rahu. Rahu sits in the first house, and Rahu plays a very important role here because he, until June 2017, he was running Rahu Mahadasha. Rahu, where it is in the first house, which is the house of personality, thinking, and everything, how a person is overall. When Rahu sits there, Rahu is what? Rahu has a capacity to give anything and everything to the person. At the same time, when it works negatively, it can take back anything and everything from the person. So Rahu is one of those planets which is the reason behind rags to riches and riches to rags stories. So when Rahu sits in his first house, his personality is such that he wants to achieve big things in his life. He wants to, he's a go-getter. He doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want to settle at something. When he was studying, he was doing engineering and then he moved to acting. He first moved to dancing. I've followed a lot of stories of him. I got to know about him a lot in these days, and I finally decided that I should make a video and try and understand what went wrong, with him. Now, I can say to you guys for sure that, there are three planets which played their role in his demise, and that's Rahu, Moon, and Saturn. And I'll tell you how they worked negatively for him. Well, first of all, Rahu is a planet which has a tendency which to give the person everything that the person desires, and then it also takes back everything. That's the worst thing about Rahu. So whenever you're going through Rahu Dasha, you have to be very careful. You should not be very excited and very happy about what you're achieving or what you're getting, because you might lose it also at the end of that Dasha. So when Rahu gives, you have to be very careful, and you have to uh, involve yourself in religious activities a lot. You should donate also. So let's begin with this chart again. Rahu, which played a very important role, as I said to you. Rahu Dasha is for 18 years, and throughout these 18 years, he he achieved everything. I mean, at this age, it's rare, very rare people get this sort of achievements that he got. He was an engineering student, then he moved to dancing, then he moved to uh, television acting, and then he moved to Bollywood. So step by step, his career never stopped. He kept rising high and high in his career. That was all happening in Rahu Dasha. Now, whether or not he committed suicide, whether or not there was a role of Rhea Chakraborty in his demise, let's understand that. Whenever we want to check suicide, especially suicide, two planets play a very important role. That's Moon, because Moon represents your subconscious mind. It's your mind, it's your thinking, it's your, you know, it's a karaka of your man, how you think, your subconscious mind, what's running in your back of your head, what sort of thoughts are coming to your mind. That's all, you know, done by Moon. And Saturn is a planet of grief. Saturn wants you to work hard. Saturn wants you to follow a set pattern. Saturn wants you to work as per the rules. And Saturn is the biggest enemy of Moon. So let's move to his Moon chart to understand what went wrong with him. Why there was so much problem that he ultimately committed suicide. Or if he was murdered. Let's not conclude that if it's, whether it's a suicide or a murder yet. Moving into his Moon chart, what we see is that Moon is being directly aspected by Saturn. When Moon is aspected by Saturn, it affects a person's mind negatively. I've seen a few charts where Moon was aspected by Saturn, and all the person was complaining about mental problems, mental troubles, sleeplessness. It's also called wish dosha in the chart. So when Moon is being aspected by Saturn, and if you see the Shadbala here, Moon and Saturn, they are equally powerful. When Moon and Saturn are equally powerful, he was a strong-headed person. He fought as much as he could with Saturn. And there are stories of his friends that he wanted, that one of his friends wanted to commit a suicide because his girlfriend ditched him. But then he said, no, it's the wrong thing. You should not commit a suicide. That's the last thing you should do. And things like those. So he was very strong-headed person, but Saturn was constantly trying to pull him down, trying to work negatively, trying to put negativity in his mind all the time. So, because both the planets are very powerful, they both were fighting together. There are stories, and that's also a fact, I should not call it a story, that he had a telescope, a big telescope, using which he used to see Saturn rings. But then unknowingly, he was strengthening his Saturn. He was bringing negative forces in his mind. I wish someone told him how negative his Saturn was for him. He would never do that. He was a religious person. I'm sure that he believed in astrology, and I'm sure that he was involved in religious work. And all that I have learned about him in this time, I know for sure that he was indeed a religious person. He never went against a religion, or he never opposed his religion or any other religion, for that matter. He respected every religion. He respected every individual. He was such a great person. Sorry. But then Saturn was constantly working negatively, trying to pull him down. And he also had a telescope using which he used to see Saturn rings, which was, putting negative energy in his mind. And that started happening, I think, off late, within a year of his demise. Let's go back to his natal chart again. I mean, the ascendant chart. Moon is exalted. Moon is in Taurus sign and it is sitting in the second house, which is house of wealth, house of family. So his family was very supportive. Family was very good. He had three sisters, I think, and all of them were very caring and loving towards him. And he also achieved a lot of success, possessions. He was wealthy, he had good cars and everything. But then Saturn again. So now whenever Saturn and Moon are aspecting each other, definitely there are mental troubles. There were news that he was suffering from a disease called schizophrenia. And just before his demise, he also searched on Google about schizophrenia himself and a couple of other things, which also uh, Saturn and Moon cause these troubles, because obviously these are mental troubles. This is depression. This is and what caused him depression? Obviously, in his ascendant chart, Mars is sitting in the seventh house. His seventh house is I don't think his seventh house is a very strong house. Seventh house is a house of spouse, house of partner, house of relationships. So his relationships, he was always in trouble. And also in the moon chart, Saturn sits in the seventh house, which is again the house of spouse and partner. So where was he getting troubles from? What was the reason that he was depressed? His partner, the person he was living with. So if you see Rhea Chakraborty's name a lot on news, definitely she was somewhere or the other putting him in a lot of pressure. She was trying to she was the reason behind his depression. Relationships, not only her, not only Rhea Chakraborty, but then other relationships, business partnerships are also seen from the seventh house. And there are news that he was in trouble with the relationships in Bollywood. He was not, I mean, off late, he was not in a very good relationship with the big movie makers also. Karan Johar, or, you know, his movies were not being released in time. He was being thrown out of the movies all of a sudden. So that started happening, and all that was Saturn. Till the time he was going through Rahu Mahadasha, he was achieving big, more than he wanted. He had a list of things to do. He had a list of things to achieve in his life, and he was achieving everything one by one, and he was going high. But then the moment uh, Rahu period ended, Rahu started taking away all those things, all those possessions, all those acquisitions that he had had during the Rahu period, which also, and then Jupiter period started, so Jupiter will give result of whatever he achieved in Rahu period. So to conclude, I can say, I mean, it's very how do I say it? It's such a person, such a great personality should have always been with us. And what if we knew about his mental abilities, his how technical he was, and how intellectual he was, how big a celebrity he was in real life, probably wouldn't have ended in his demise. Probably he would have had more supporters, and he would have felt better. I mean, but then somehow it didn't happen, and we only got to know more and more about Sushant Singh after his demise. All I can say is that wherever he is, may his soul rest in peace. And whoever is behind his demise, may the justice prevail. Thank you so much for listening. Jai Shri Ram.